Welcome to Charette Theory. Today, we step into that hush, not to fill it, but to honor it. This isn't a season of noise or spectacle. It's a season of quiet recognitions. Of shadows that stretch long across wooden floors. Of light that falls gently, as if aware of its own scarcity. So find your favorite blanket. Pour a cup of something warm. Let the hush in your mind grow louder than the noise of the world. And with reverence and curiosity, let's begin. Winter doesn't demand attention. It invites stillness. It doesn't overwhelm us, it empties the air, the sky, the landscape, so we can hear what's left. This stillness becomes a mirror. A space where we notice the thoughts we've been too busy to feel. A time when silence is not absence, but presence. And in this season of soft withdrawal, of breath suspended and time slowed, we look for refuge, not just in warmth, but in meaning. Not just in rooms, but in rituals. We seek a place not only to sit, but to settle. A place to be both enclosed and expanded. A place that doesn't ask us to entertain, but to reflect. What better form could that take than a reading nook? But make no mistake, this is not the soft minimalism of Hig. Not the serene neutrality of a Nordic perch. No, this is a space of depth. Of history. Of psychological atmosphere. This is Gothic Revival, where stillness gains weight and quiet gains echo. A space that leans into shadow, into drama, into the romance of solitude. Gothic Revival is not a style you adopt. It's a mood you remember. A sacred architecture of thought and feeling. A way of saying, I am still here, and so are the ghosts of everything that shaped me. Today, we will build such a space. A reading corner that honors memory without becoming a museum. Where candlelight flickers against velvet drapes. Where the room darkens not in despair, but in devotion. A place where you can sit and let the world fall away, not as an escape, but as a return. To understand the Gothic Revival reading Nook, we must first ask, what is it protecting? What kind of self is it meant to shelter? It's tempting to think of Gothic Revival as simply decorative, pointed arches, dark wood, ornate detail, but the truth is, this style emerged not from aesthetics alone, but from a longing. A longing for meaning, for mystery, for the sacred in an increasingly mechanical world. In the 18th and 19th centuries, as the industrial age began to reshape cities and strip landscapes of the organic, Gothic Revival appeared like a candle in the fog. It reached backward, but not in nostalgia. It was a philosophical reaching, a spiritual protest. Against standardization. Against cold rationality. Against the flatness of mass production. This was a style that asked for reverence. For texture. For emotion. And that's why it speaks so powerfully in winter, when our spirits crave warmth, but not just the thermal kind. When we want to feel held, and also deepened. In the home, Gothic Revival took on an intimate scale. No longer soaring cathedrals but study rooms, parlors, fireplaces. It translated stone into wood, stained glass into colored drapery, vaulted ceilings into tall, narrow bookshelves. It preserved the spirit of spiritual architecture and brought it down to eye level. And so, the Gothic reading Nook isn't just a cozy corner, it's a place where the inner life is honored. It doesn't merely host books, it reflects them. It mirrors their mood, their weight, their wonder. Here, we embrace heaviness, not as burden, but as depth. Darkness is not avoided, it's shaped, curated, softened. The Nook becomes a sort of altar to the imagination. It asks, what do you hold sacred? What are you willing to slow down for? You may begin with a chair that encloses rather than exposes. Not something meant for mingling, but for musing. A high back. A cocooning silhouette. Around it, perhaps, a carved bookcase that looks as though it was once part of a monastery's scriptorium. Not ornate for its own sake, but expressive. Symbolic. The materials are rich with history, dark-stained oak, weathered brass, time-worn leather. The color palette leans into the nocturnal, deep burgundy, ink black, forest green, umber. These tones absorb light rather than reflect it. They ask you to look closer. And the atmosphere? Never passive. This Nook observes as much as it offers. It invites your rituals and then returns them. It listens. It holds your solitude like a confidant. To design a Gothic Revival reading Nook is to acknowledge that reading isn't always a casual activity. Sometimes it's devotional. Sometimes it's escape. Sometimes it's a conversation with the dead, or a meditation with the self. It's not about nostalgia. It's about resonance. You're not just designing a place to sit. You're designing a place to descend. To fall inward. To remember. Architecture, even in its smallest gestures, carries intention. And when designing a Gothic Revival reading Nook, the structure, real or suggested, becomes more than just backdrop. It becomes the vessel through which the mood is delivered. Begin not with furniture, but with form. If your home offers a bay window, a shallow alcove, or even an awkward recessed wall, see it anew. These are not architectural quirks. They are invitations. The gentle curve of a bay, the vertical press of a narrow recess, these are the domestic echoes of cathedral geometry. In these quiet irregularities, the Gothic finds its foothold. If you're lucky enough to have an arched niche, you've already inherited a sacred shape. But even if your walls are flat, your lines straight, fear not. The Gothic Revival is not about replicating castles. It's about invoking presence. You can build enclosure through design. Imagine flanking your space with tall, slender bookcases, perhaps with arched tops or carved tracery. These verticals don't just store, they gesture upward, guiding the eye toward contemplation. On either side, they frame your Nook like quiet sentinels. Introduce softness with drapery. Suspend a curtain rod high, close to the ceiling, and let velvet or brocade fall in deep, heavy folds to the floor. The fabric does more than divide space. It thickens the air. It absorbs sound. It lends intimacy. Pulling it closed can feel like drawing a veil between worlds. And where you place your nook matters. Choose a corner near a window, but do not flood the space with light. The Gothic is not afraid of shadows. In fact, it prefers them. Filter the daylight through thick, pleated curtains in saturated tones, oxblood, indigo, evergreen. Allow the light to be dappled, muted, as if it were filtering through stained glass, even if there is none. Think vertically. Gothic spaces always stretch upward. They draw the soul with them. Choose a high-backed chair, tall shelves, slender standing lamps. Even a narrow wall tapestry can create this elongation, this ascent. But just as important as verticality is compression. This nook should not feel expansive. It should feel enclosed. Not cramped, but protected. As if you're being gently held in a fold of architecture. If the rest of your home is open plan and contemporary, resist the urge to match its flow. Instead, let this nook be different. Let it break the line. Let it deepen the rhythm of the room with its own quiet tempo. You're not creating a space to perform productivity. You're shaping a reliquary. A devotional site. A place where books are not just read but communed with. Where silence is a material. Let the layout reflect that reverence. Every object, every surface, every proportion, it all participates in the atmosphere. Remember, in Gothic architecture, the space is not just physical, it's metaphysical. It doesn't merely hold things. It holds time. It holds thought. And so too should your nook. Furniture in a Gothic Revival reading nook is not merely functional, it is symbolic. Each piece should feel as though it has a lineage. As if it were chosen not just for comfort, but for the story it carries. Begin with the most important element, the chair. This is your throne, your sanctuary, your anchor within the space. Look for a chair that doesn't just hold you, it embraces you. A tall-backed armchair in tufted velvet, preferably with wood accents carved in floral or foliate motifs. If you can find one with finials or arches subtly embedded in its design, even better. Let the upholstery be rich, crimson, hunter green, deep indigo. These aren't merely colors, they are moods. If you favor a more reclined experience, consider the decadent silhouette of a fainting couch. It curves like a whisper, inviting hours of slow reading or contemplation. Drape it in throws. Line it with mismatched pillows. Let it feel decadent, even theatrical. The materiality of these furnishings matters deeply. Choose woods that are dark and warm, mahogany, walnut, even ebony-stained oak. The grain should be visible, the texture slightly imperfect. Avoid the overly lacquered or modern finishes. What you want is the feeling of age. Of something that has been touched by time, and is all the more beautiful for it. Then, introduce your companion piece, a small table. Round is best, it evokes the shape of communion, of ritual. Look for wrought iron legs or a carved wooden base. The top may hold your current book, a steaming cup of tea, or a single burning candle. This surface is not cluttered, it is curated. It holds only what is necessary, and what is sacred. Add an ottoman or an antique trunk to ground the space. An ottoman offers rest for the body, a trunk offers room for memories. Store your winter blankets inside. Or old journals. Or nothing at all, let it simply be an artifact. The point is to bring weight to the space, both literal and emotional. These elements tell you, this corner matters. And don't forget the unexpected. A small writing desk. A cathedral-legged stool. A side chair with bar-la-twist spindles. Each addition should feel as if it wandered in from another time and decided to stay. When choosing your pieces, don't rush. Let them find you. A Gothic Nook is not assembled in a weekend. It's curated across seasons, across years. And the best furniture for such a space often carries a sense of the found. The inherited. The slightly worn. It should feel like something that has always belonged, even if it just arrived. Ultimately, your furniture is not just there to support your body. It must also support your mood, your thoughts, your long afternoons lost in prose. It must be strong, but not domineering. Beautiful, but not fragile. It must invite solitude, and reward it. In a world driven by sleek lines and impermanence, these objects are your quiet protest. They say, I choose weight. I choose presence. I choose the slow unfolding of a winter page. Light, in the Gothic Revival tradition, is never just light. It is metaphor. It is mood. It is memory. In your reading corner, illumination should never be harsh or complete. It should flicker, it should hide. It should glow like the last page of a candlelit book. Begin with your primary source, the reading lamp. This is your cornerstone. Choose a lamp that feels more like sculpture than fixture. Look for antique brass, hammered copper, or wrought iron bases, forms that recall church candlesticks or medieval torturies. Shade should be stained glass in jewel tones or frosted parchment that diffuses rather than directs. Let the light that escapes be amber-hued, golden, as though time itself has been warmed. But do not stop with utility. Lighting in a Gothic space should never feel utilitarian. It must seduce. It must suggest. Add layers, multiple points of low light that feel ritualistic in their arrangement. A candelabra is ideal. Whether it's antique or faux, place it where it can catch the eye without dominating the space. 5 arms. 7. Odd numbers are best, they create asymmetry, which in Gothic interiors feels organic. Adorn it with taper candles in shades of bone, burgundy, or smoky plum. Let the wax drip and pool. Let the flames dance with intention. Then, scatter smaller votives throughout the space. Nestle them in corners, tuck them inside lanterns, place one within a niche in your bookcase. The idea is not to fill the room with light, but to punctuate the dark. Let the shadows be shaped by the flicker. And don't overlook modern magic. String lights, yes, even fairy lights, can have their place. But not the cold white variety strung with cheer. Instead, use strands of soft amber or garnet red, and hide them, behind curtain pleats, beneath a floating shelf, inside a vintage bird cage. Let them shimmer like hidden relics. Let them barely be seen. To add depth, introduce an uplight, subtle, concealed. Place it behind a velvet curtain, under an antique chair, or behind a potted fern. The effect will be architectural. It will lift the room vertically, echoing the Gothic impulse toward height and reverence. What you're creating is not brightness. It's alchemy. A space where the air feels thick with mood. Where the light seems to know secrets. Where fire, whether real or implied, offers more than warmth, it offers presence. And in winter, this becomes crucial. When daylight disappears before dinner, you need not battle the darkness. You need only shape it. Sculpt it. Invite it to participate in your ritual of solitude. This is the illusion of fire. Not just flames, but the feeling that something ancient is burning quietly, just beyond the edge of vision. Not to banish the night, but to illuminate the soul. If architecture gives your Gothic Nook its form, then textiles give it a heartbeat. They are what we touch, what brushes against us as we sink into silence. In a season where the world turns brittle and bare, fabric becomes the voice of warmth, low, rich, enveloping. Begin with the anchor, your throw blanket. Not just any cozy accessory, but a textile of substance. Drape a velvet throw across the arm of your reading chair, deep oxblood, sapphire, or forest green. Velvet is essential here, and not for luxury, but for its way of absorbing light, for the hush it brings to a space. It does not shimmer, it rests. Add pillows that feel plucked from a time-worn manor. Damask with curling motifs. Brocade patterned with vines, fleur-de-lis, or faded gold filigree. Raw silk in imperfect dye lots. These fabrics should not match perfectly, they should feel collected, storied, even slightly unruly. In Gothic Revival, texture is emotion. A clash between matte and sheen, coarse and smooth, is not jarring, it's poetic. Look beneath your feet. This is not the place for bare hardwood or clean, modern runners. Spread a Persian rug or Jacobean tapestry-style carpet beneath your chair. Something whose threads are softened by age, whose pattern recalls ancient texts or forgotten frescoes. Deep reds, indigos, and muddy ochres work beautifully here, colors that feel unearthed rather than chosen. Textile layering is not confined to the obvious. Wrap a wicker basket with a fragment of tapestry. Drape a stretch of lace over the back of your chair, letting it fall like a veil. Line your bookcase with velvet or wool to dull the echo of bare shelves. You are muffling the modern world, not muting beauty. Let each texture contrast the next. Place a heavy linen curtain beside a lacquered wood frame. Stack books bound in cracked leather and soft suede. Even the placement of a wool scarf over a mirror's edge becomes intentional, an act of softening. This is not simply design, it's tactility as philosophy. In winter, when the skin misses sunlight, give it texture. Give it weight. Let your hand fall upon velvet as if it were an old friend. Let your fingertips graze the fray of a worn edge. The Gothic Nook is not cold. It is dense. It is upholstered in remembrance. And in that density, we find comfort, not the bright, fleeting comfort of the spring sun, but a deeper solace. The kind you lean into. The kind that holds. There is no Gothic Nook without books. But here, they are more than literature. They are memory. Relic. Spell. This is not a library built for quantity. It's a shrine built for depth. Curate with intention. Let your shelves hold volumes that speak with gravity, tales soaked in shadow and sentiment. Reach for Poe, yes. For Mary Shelley, Emily Bronte, or George Eliot. But also include philosophy. Theology. The occasional forgotten volume that's yellowed with time and brittle with wisdom. Don't line your books up like soldiers. Let them fall into small chapels of chaos. Stack a few horizontally, almost carelessly. Lay one open, spine cracked to a page that struck you once and never quite let go. Place a smooth stone on top of it, not just to hold the paper, but to anchor the thought. Binding matters here. Choose leather if you can, not because it's luxurious, but because it ages. It absorbs the oils from your hands, softens with use. Cloth-bound editions are welcome too, textured, muted, faded. Let them wear their years like a wool coat in winter. Plastic covers and glossy dust jackets? Tuck them away. In this space, imperfection is not flaw, but evidence. And then, begin to adorn. Think of your shelf as an altar. Let your eye fall on things that don't demand attention, but reward it. A brass key. A raven figurine. A small sculpture half lost to shadow. A bundle of dried lavender or rosemary, tied with twine, leaning against a volume of Yeats. Include objects that feel imbued with story, an hourglass, quietly keeping time. A wax seal stamp, unused but noble. Apothecary jars with cryptic contents, cloves, obsidian, salt. Each item should feel like it belongs to a ritual, even if the ritual hasn't been invented yet. You're not decorating. You're curating presence. Add an old mirror, small, framed, darkened at the edges. Not for reflection, but for depth. A place for the eye to drift. A portal. Tuck a tarot card inside a book, half visible. Leave a handwritten note in the margins. Allow the nook to gather mystery, like dust, but intentional. Thoughtful. Holy. In the Gothic tradition, nothing is purely decorative. Everything holds meaning. The echo of a story. The weight of time. The trace of belief. Let your reading corner become a sanctum not only of books, but of symbols. A space that listens to your silence and fills it with sacred company. To truly design a Gothic Revival reading nook for winter, one must go beyond the visual. Winter, after all, is not only seen, it is felt, heard, inhaled. It envelops. It speaks not through brightness, but through breath, through stillness, through the shiver of cold air meeting warm skin. Your space should echo that intimacy. Begin with scent. It is the most ancient of atmospheres. Let cloves simmer in a pot of water. Burn frankincense resin or light a stick of sandalwood incense in a small ceramic bowl of black sand. Use essential oils, deep, grounding ones, cedarwood, vetiver, patchouli, rosemary, myrrh. Diffuse them slowly. Let them linger like memory. Let them speak before you do. Place a bundle of eucalyptus or bay leaves in a vase, dry and fragrant. Add sprigs of pine or juniper to a bookshelf edge. Tuck cinnamon sticks into bowls of dried orange peel. The scents shouldn't announce themselves. They should waft, low, mysterious, ancient. Now consider sound. Winter has its own music. One of hush, of crackle, of distant resonance. Let your nook offer more than silence, let it offer texture in quiet. Start with ambient sounds. A low drone. The hum of a cello. Gregorian chants echoing like footsteps through an empty cathedral. Or let a single harpsichord note dance through the space like frost on glass. Choose compositions that feel ancient, timeless, music that fills the air like candle smoke, not like performance, but like presence. Play a soft recording of wind through bare trees. Or the occasional creak of floorboards, as though the house, too, is remembering. Let your playlist feel like something rediscovered in a forgotten archive. If you're lucky enough to have snow outside, crack the window just enough to let its hush in. That sound, the snowflake against glass, the quiet of muffled streets, is as precious as any orchestration. Include something tactile to touch but not use. A small brass bell, placed beside a candle. Not to summon, but to clear. A ritual. A punctuation. One soft chime to mark the end of a chapter, or the start of a thought. And always, always, keep a warm drink nearby. Let its steam rise into the air like a ghost. Tea with cardamom, mulled wine, a cup of black coffee in a handmade mug. Something to cradle. To sip slowly. The kind of warmth that travels through you, that reminds you you're still here, still human, still home. This season is not merely backdrop, it is collaborator. You are not retreating from winter in this corner. You are co-creating with it. Allow it to soften you, to clarify you. Let your Gothic nook become a place where winter is not endured, but welcomed. Not feared, but revered. This is winter, distilled. A composition of air, of ember, of echo. A moment in which you do not merely survive the cold, you sanctify it. Walls are more than just boundaries, they are silent witnesses, keepers of memory, vessels for story. In your Gothic Revival reading nook, the walls don't simply enclose the space, they speak. They invite the past in, urging it to mingle with the present. They hold the whispers of ancestors, the echoes of forgotten tales. Begin by choosing portraits, not of famous faces, but of unknown souls, strangers whose eyes seem to follow you, as if they hold secrets. Seek out oval frames with the kind of patina that only time can create. Let wood show its age through gentle wear, or find frames gilded in tarnished gold, faded to a subtle glow. These portraits aren't just decoration, they are companions, silent storytellers watching over your space. Tapestries, too, are essential here. They carry history in their threads, their heavy folds like the pages of an illuminated manuscript. Wool is ideal for texture and warmth, but thick-woven cotton or linen with Gothic motifs, crests, thistles, mythical beasts, can work beautifully as well. These textiles don't just hang on the walls, they transform them into relics, layering the room with meaning and mystery. Consider adding a mirror, but not for vanity. Choose one shaped like a cathedral window, its frame carved into a catafal or lancet arch. The glass captures candlelight, doubling the flicker, extending shadows, and adding depth. It reflects the room's soul back to you, offering endless layers of presence and perception. Scatter smaller pieces as well, handwritten quotes torn from old books, pressed flowers dried and preserved in delicate shadow boxes, ancient maps or pages from medieval manuscripts. These fragments of history and sentiment become altars to reflection, holding your gaze and stirring your imagination. Each object on your wall should feel chosen with care, collected rather than curated, discovered rather than purchased. This gallery is not static, it breathes with you. It is a place where memory lives, where stories linger in the shadows, inviting you to pause and listen. In this way, your walls become more than backdrops. They become extensions of your inner world, a canvas for the imagination, a sacred space that enfolds you in its quiet grandeur. This reading nook you have created is more than just a physical space, it is a sanctuary, a refuge, a ritual in itself. The Gothic Revival corner you've built is not simply a place to escape, but a place to return, to yourself, to your thoughts, to the quiet depths that winter invites us to explore. Let this nook become a chamber of intentionality. Each element, from the worn velvet throw to the flickering candlelight, is a thread in the fabric of your personal ritual. Light the same candle each morning and watch how its gentle flame anchors the day's beginning. Open your journal here and let your pen move freely, as if the space itself encourages honesty and reflection. Read a poem aloud, not for an audience, but for your own soul, letting the words echo softly against velvet curtains and aged wood. This space holds more than comfort, it holds clarity. It is a place where the noise of the world falls away, where the silence feels sacred, where your mind can unfold without rush or distraction. It is here that you can pause, breathe deeply, and reconnect with the rhythms that sustain you through the long winter nights. Remember, the nook is never finished. It lives and changes with you. Let it be a vessel for your evolving thoughts and emotions, a place to bring your daily experiences and your dreams alike. Visit often, sit deeply, and allow this space to shape and nurture you. If you've crafted your own Gothic Revival reading nook or a similar sanctuary, we invite you to share your story. What objects hold meaning for you? What comforts you when shadows fall? How does your space invite you back to yourself? Let's build a community of intention, a circle of warmth in the quiet season. Thank you for joining me on this journey through shadow and solace, history and heart. Until next time, stay curious, stay intentional. This is Charette Theory.